In this webinar, WH questions for Git and GitHub will be like, what is Git? Why do we use Git? Where do we use Git? When do we use Git? And most importantly, how do we use Git? Right. So these WH questions are really, really important. If you can answer all those questions, hey, you have mastered the skill. So in this format, we will move forward in this webinar by asking these questions and by answering them, right? What is Git? One line simple answer for question what is Git is a tool used for version control. I repeat, Git is a tool used for version control. So this becomes important to understand what is version control before we answer what is Git, right? So what is version control? My dear friends, version control is a standard practice that allows users to track the files in our working directory, project directory, keep the history of the changes that has been made to our project code, and manage those changes during the entire software development life cycle. I repeat, version control is a standard practice which allows users to track the set of files present in our working directory, project directory, and keep history of those changes to make those changes that has been taken place in our project directory and manage those changes. So in a way, we have also answered the question, what is Git, right? So Git is a tool used for version control. Git is a software, therefore Git is a tool used for tracking all the files in a working directory, project directory, keeping the history of those, keeping the history of the changes that has been made to our project directory and managing those changes during, once again, software development life cycle. Git comes with bunch of rich features which we'll be exploring in this webinar, right? So with that said, let's go to download Git. Let's open. Just a second, I will share my screen. And let's go to gitscm.com/downloads. On this page, you can download on based on your own operating system for Mac users, Windows users, and Linux. I suggest Windows users to use Git Bash, which will be downloaded automatically when you will download Git. All right, so Git Bash is nothing but a terminal which make commands almost same for Mac, Linux, and Windows. All right. I will take you through the basic workflow and how Git works. All right, let's go. So this is the most basic workflow how Git works. So this is the working directory or project directory where all our files are present, our project code is present. So I have mentioned, right, like CCTV camera. So for work to make CCTV camera work, we need to initialize it, right? We need to set up it. In the same way, we are also supposed to initialize Git in our project code, in our working directory, right? And we can initialize Git in our working directory using git init command. So once we have initialized Git, then we are having many files in our project directory, but Git will not track them because we have not allowed Git to track those files. So how do we allow Git to track those files? By staging our files, by sending our files to staging area when Git can track all the files. And how can we stage our files? Using git add command. The command is git add dot. So what dot does? It adds all the files in the present working directory. Actually, that's bad habit. We should never use dot. We will be working on it practically, and you will understand why I'm talking about this. Then next, when we have completed all our files, we are complete with our project. For example, assume that we are working on index.js file and we have completed working on it. So we need to push it to local repository from where we can share our repository, right? So we can commit our index.js file with a relevant message. Now here, listen, adding relevant message is really important. For index.js, we can add relevant message, something like completed working on index.js file, because it helps us to segregate and organize our committing history in a organized manner, right? So once we commit our files to local repository, then we can push it to remote server or remote repository to keep it safe somewhere in the cloud, right? So there are many code hosting platforms like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, but in this webinar, we'll be working on GitHub because of its various rich features, which we'll be exploring shortly. And we can push our local repository to GitHub by using command git push. So this is the most basic workflow that how Git works. So now I assume that you have downloaded Git. With that said, let's start working practically on Git and GitHub. Open the terminal. It's Ctrl-Alt-T for Ubuntu. Please open terminal and let's verify if we have downloaded Git successfully. Just open terminal and type git. Now, bunch of stuff appears on the terminal window. That says that we have downloaded Git successfully. So with that said, let's start working practically on Git, right? I'll just clear the terminal. And first of all, we need to set some configurations for using Git and GitHub. Nothing much, just like adding your username and your email to Git. So it can identify who is the author who is making this all changes, right? So let's start configuring our Git. So just follow me. I will explain you everything. Git config config -- global user.name. Within the quotes, add your username, anything you want to add. For me, I will add Swami Sankalp. Enter. We added it successfully. Now we will add our email. So git config once again -- global, and this time user.email, right? And within quotes, your user email, please. So yeah, we have configured our Git. So let's start working practically on Git now. I'll just clear and we will start by creating a directory. mkdir, of course, and we will name it like Git learning. All right. Git learning. Let's navigate and change directory to Git learning so that we work over there. And yeah, our present working directory is here, home frankly Git learning. We are in our working directory. So let's start by adding a new file. By creating a file, let's create a index.js file. Touch index.js file, and let's add a few lines of code to index.js file so that we can work with it. So before that, what is the first step we should be doing? I have mentioned it before, initialization process, right? So first we will initialize Git in our working directory. And how do we do that? Here, git init, using the command git init, git space init. So yeah, so it says initialize empty Git repository in our working directory. So let's start. Okay, we will add few lines of code to our index.js file. I will use nano for adding that. All right, so let's declare to constants over here. It can be anything. It's just for the sake of explanation. Const num1 and const num2. Okay, Control X, Y, and enter. Now let's verify if you have added it or not using cat command, cat index.js, enter. And yeah, we have added it successfully. It is git status. So what is git status used for? We can check the status of our current status of a working directory using the git status command. git status git status. So it says on branch master. So branches is one of the like the richest feature, very beautiful feature for Git. We will be working on branches in the later part of this webinar. And it says no commit set before we have not committed our staged files, and it says it is having untracked files. Git cannot track those files because we have not added it. And how do we add that? Yeah, using git add command. So let's stage those files using git add command. So earlier we came across this dot which is not a good habit. We should never use this dot because it adds all the files present in the working directory, something which we don't want at all. So we will be adding file by file and we'll be committing file by file, so that we keep our working history clean and clear, right? So we can add file by file by using file name directly. So the command is git add and the file name, and in our case file name is index.js. So index.js, enter. So we have added it successfully. So let's check the current status of a working directory using git status command. git stat keywords once again, enter. So now earlier it had untracked files, and now you can see there is no untracked files, and now git says that changes to be committed because we have staged our file. There are no files, untracked files. There are no untracked files in our working directory. So now we will commit our file. And how do we do that? Using git commit command, right? So git commit, commit commit, and -m flag. So what is this? This stands for nothing but message, and relevant message for our index.js file. So in our case, we added two constants, right? So our message would be something like this: added num1 and num2 to index.js file, enter. And there are a bunch of stuff which will be not that clear to understand right now. Don't worry, I will explain it. So first of all, we are having a message that is added num1 and num2, which we added right now during committing the file, and it says one file changed, that is index.js file, and it says two insertions. Two insertions is nothing but the line of codes which we added in that index.js file. So we added just two lines, so it says two insertions, right? So this is the beauty. It tracks the files line by line, right? And it says created index.js file. So let's recheck the git status. Git status, enter. So it says now on branch master, nothing to commit, working tree clean, because we have added a staged index.js file to commit to local repository. So therefore our working tree is clean. We will use another git command to check the history, and that is git log, git-log. So let's use git log. So actually the terminal. All right, so git log, enter. So now you can see here it's commit, and it's an hash for that particular commit. Head is pointing to master. I will get to that part in the later head part in the later part of this webinar. It says author, which we configured at the start, right? User.name and user.email. So it is used for this. And then this date when this commit took place, that is right now, just few seconds earlier. It's my time zone plus 5:30 IST, and it is also showing the git commit message, that is added num1 and num2 to index.js file. So now we will add few more files to work with it. Let's add app.js and to be deleted.js. Enter. Let's check it using ls command. So yeah, we have added app.js and to be deleted.js. So now let's recheck the status of a working directory using git status. And now it says it is having two untracked files. So let's track them using git add command. Before that, we will add few lines of code to app.js using once again nano app.js, enter. So now we will add a function to app.js, and we'll start with const multiply function. All right. Okay. Qt parameters num1 and num2. Return num1 into num2. Yeah, that's it. Let's invoke the multiply function. All right, that's pretty much it. Arguments actually. Yeah. So let's save it. Control X, Y, and enter. So now we will add these files to staging area one by one. First, we'll add app.js using git add command. Of course, git add app.js. Enter. Now we will recheck the status of a working directory. Git status, and now it says changes to be committed, new file app.js. It is staged file which is yet to be committed, and we're having one untracked file, that is to be deleted.js. So first we will commit our app.js file. All right, so using git commit command, git commit -m flag and message within the quotes, and this time we will add message like added multiply function to app.js file. Beautiful. It says one file changed, 5 insertions, created app.js, added multiply function to app.js is our message which we added right now. So now we will add to be deleted.js file using git add to be deleted.js file, right? Enter. So sometimes what happens during development, we delete some files, we delete some unwanted files, right? So we have staged to be deleted.js file and we want to delete it, we want to unstage it. And how we do that? Let's start by checking the current status of a working directory. Git status, and it says new file to be deleted.js, but we want to unstage it. And for that, let's check what Git is saying. So Git says use git restore staged file name to unstage, right? So let's use that command to unstage our to be deleted.js file. So git restore -- staged and the file name, that is to be deleted.js. Enter. And if you check the git status, and we have successfully unstaged our to be deleted.js file, so we don't want it, let's just delete it. rf to be deleted.js. Enter. So let's check our working current status of a working directory using git status command. Okay, so nothing to commit, working tree is clean. Git show command to check the details of that particular commit, right? So we will just copy the commit, copy the hash, sorry, just copy it and use git show and just paste the copied hash. Enter. Just a second, I will clear the terminal. Git show and paste the copied hash. Enter. So as you can see, it's our commit, pointing head to master, author Swami Sankalp, of course, date, that's the current date, the date when commit the file was committed, and the message for that commit, that is added multiply function to app.js file. It's not about just that. Let's take a closer look, and it shows actual lines which are added to the commit, and you can see the const multiply functions. Now these lines are being displayed in green color starting with plus sign because we have added these lines. If we added some lines, if we delete them, those lines will be displayed in red color and a minus sign. All right, so now we will be working on an advanced and standard way of committing our files, of adding our files. So let's work on that by adding few more lines of code to our app.js file. So I will use nano again, nano app.js. Enter. So let's add few more lines down below over here. On subtract. All right, we'll use divide. Once divide and num1 and num2 again, and return num1 divided by num2. That's it. Let's remove the divide function and few arguments, of course. Let's save it, Ctrl X, Y, and enter. All right, so we have added few more lines of code to app.js file. Let's check the current status of a working directory using git status command. Git status, enter, and now it says changes not staged for commit. So we have staged our file previously, but now it is saying that changes not staged for commit. So there are a few modifications in our files which are not staged for commit. So we for that git says that git add and file name to update what will be committed. So it will be using the same commit message which we don't want at all. And for that we will use and another command. So that is git add hyphen p flag. So what does this hyphen p flag does? We will look over it shortly. So we will git add hyphen p flag and the file name, that is app.js. Enter. Now, as you can see over here, there are a bunch of stuff which is appearing, which is displayed on the terminal. So it shows the actual modification which we did right now in our app.js file. That is, we added const divide function, right? So it is displaying the const divide function, and it is asking to stage this hunk. So this is the real beauty of Git. We can add not only the complete file as commit, but we can also add part of the file as commit, which makes it very well segregated, and we can organize our history in a way greater way. Actually, now we have added our files to local repository, and now we want to push this to GitHub. So how do we do that? So let's go to GitHub right now. So let's open new tab and github.com. So if you don't have an account on GitHub, so you can just a second. So if you go to github.com, it will be something like you. The UI will be something like you if you don't have an account, right? So just go to github.com. If you are having an account, sign in directly, or if you don't have an account, you can sign up. It's as simple as adding just your email and password. All right. So create your account, and then when you go to github.com, you will be reaching this page, which is your personal profile page, and then you can click on new button to add a repository, to add a new repository. Let's click on new, and we will name a repository. We should name it same as we have named in our local machine, that is Git learning. So Git learning, right? So you can make it private. You can make your repository private or public. It completely depends upon you and your organization. I'm going to keep it public anyway. So let's click on create repository, right? And here we have created successfully our repository, right? So by default, whenever you open a repository, it will open the code tab, right? And what GitHub says about it? So it says, or create a new repository on the command line, but we have already created our local Git repository, so we won't be using this guideline. So we will scroll below and we'll just push an existing repository from the command line. So we are having a repository, right? We are having an existing repository which we will be pushing from our local machine to GitHub, right? So let's copy the first line. Don't worry, I will explain each line shortly, and just paste it over here and see what does this line says. Git is the command. Remote is something like a remote server, remote repository for our local repository. In our case, it is GitHub, right? So remote is GitHub. Add is nothing but add, and origin is a name. So origin is something like you can take, like for example, contacts. In your phone, you have various phone numbers in your contacts. So you save it using name to memorize it, right? So in the same way, origin is name for this URL address where we will be pushing our local Git repository, and its name is origin, which we can you can take it as a variable. All right, we will use origin as variable. You can name it anything you want, but the naming convention is origin, so we are using origin, right? So we have added origin, our URL address, to our local Git repository successfully. So next is Git branch main, right? So just copy Git branch -m main and paste it over here. So what is Git branch and main? The most beautiful feature Git has is its branches. We'll be working practically on what Git branches are shortly. So follow me just for right now, just follow me. All right, so Git branch and main. So right now we are having, this is our by default branch in Git, which is master, and now we are making it main, right? Enter. So as you can see, it was master previously and now it's main. So we have added branch main as we have actually made main as the by default branch for our Git local repository, right?